This episode is proudly supported by Montague, handpicked for you.
So the eating experience of our plums is sweet. That's a primary driver. It's got to be sweet, but it's also got to have enough acid, because the mix of acid and sugar is what gives fruit its flavour. And in a plum, it tends to be slightly higher acidity. And then a really nice, full, not dry, but juicy explosion of juice into your mouth as you bite into it. That's nirvana for us in terms of plum.
For more information, go to montague.com.au.
I've never met anybody that doesn't like lemon myrtle. We do. There's some fantastic foods out there, and it makes sense for us to be growing and eating our native foods.
This is The Producers. I'm Anthony Huckstep. After moving to Bundjalung country, Byron Bay, Rebecca Barnes started to explore native ingredients. 20 years later, and Playing with Fire Native Foods is not only showcasing the culinary possibilities of native foods, but is helping create career pathways for First Nations people too.
So we're on Bundjalung country, which is northeastern New South Wales in the Byron Bay area. It is an amazing area. I'm sure everybody's heard of Byron Bay. Beautiful, pristine beaches, absolutely gorgeous hinterland. We've got red volcanic soils, we've got high rainfall. It's a very good area to be growing and producing in lovely subtropical weather. So Australia has around 6,500 native food plants. And the Northern Rivers area, or Bundjalung country, is a very strong hotspot. We've got lots of the foods here because of the rainforest that used to be and the volcanic soils. This region, very easy to grow stuff, and we do have a lot of natives here. We've commercialised around 20 native foods, and you can get more than half of them here on Bundjalung country. The biggest food in our native food industry, apart from macadamias, we don't include macadamias, is lemon myrtle. So lemon myrtle's grown a lot in this district. Finger limes, amazing native citrus, and possibly the original citrus of the world. We're doing some DNA research, and it turns out that right here in northern New South Wales is probably where all citrus began. We have a variety of Davidson plum here, which is super high, a real superfood, super high in antioxidants, in calcium, lots of good stuff in it, vitamin C. And there's a plethora of other foods, from seaside vegetables through to rainforest foods and fruits. And then you go up on the range and there's a whole lot of like eucalypts and things like that are all edible as well.
After finding wild native raspberries, Rebecca began to explore the incredible array of native foods.
So unfortunately, I don't recall eating any native food growing up. I did own a cafe in Sydney in the early 90s, and I remember one of my competitors serving a bunyannut burger. And they were delicious. I did go and try it. And that was probably the first time I'd ever actually eaten anything native. When I moved up here to Bundjalung country, we found native raspberries growing in the bush. And I didn't know Australia had native raspberries because I love a raspberry. And that just set us off then, going, well, why can't I buy these? And there was nobody growing them and nobody doing it. And so we planted a little trial crop. We started to grow the raspberries. We adopted the European horticulture methods, and they adapted beautifully. And off we went from there. Then selling, I already had a market stall and I was doing herbal teas, and I started to sell some raspberry and some raspberry leaf on the stall, and there was a lot of interest from people in native foods. That tweaked us from a business angle, and off we went trying to source it, which was rather difficult in the beginning. Now 20-something years later, we've got a thriving business happening.
Working closely with local property owners and farms, Rebecca and her team have access to extraordinary native foods.
So we have over the years had our own properties and grown. At the moment we don't. We utilise a lot of other farms in the district. We have a harvest team. We take out, so we attend your property and we'll do the harvest and the work for you and pay you for the fruit or the leaves, whatever we're harvesting. We have a commercial kitchen production facility in the Ballina Industrial Estate, and that's where we take everything back and process it. We either sell it wholesale as an ingredient, or we use it in our own retail products.
After discovering the low percentage of First Nations people actively involved in the production of native foods, Rebecca started to create pathways for Indigenous businesses.
After a while of trying to build a business and looking at the industry, it became very evident that there was a very, very small representation of Indigenous people in the industry. And at the time, we had an industry group called Bush Food Sensations operating. I was a public officer, and we asked the Indigenous Land Corporation, or Indigenous Land and Sea Corporation they're called now, if they would fund us to do a survey of the industry and get some definitive data on where the industry was, how much was being produced and how much of that was Indigenous. And they agreed to fund that, so off we went. We contracted a local Indigenous business to do the work and do the survey, and the results were very poor as far as Indigenous involvement goes. There was less than 2% of the finished product today has anything to do with an Indigenous business over the whole supply chain. So that's very disappointing. And so then it was on the agenda, well, how do we change that? We've got to get it changed. So we started a TAFE course. We spoke to the Aboriginal Pathways program here on Bundjalung Country, and they agreed to do a horticulture bush food production course, and it was free for Indigenous people from all over New South Wales, fully funded, and that was fantastic. From that we have lots of businesses starting up and now operating, and we don't have a definitive number of Indigenous business today, but I can tell you it's definitely a whole lot better than it was once before, and it's on the increase. There's more and more Indigenous businesses coming into play.
Education is one thing, but supply of native foods continues to be challenging.
The biggest challenge, and it still is supply. There's just simply not enough crops out there. We try to avoid foraging as much as possible. We're still foraging some raspberry, unfortunately. But yeah, it is, supply has always been the issue, and actually convincing property owners to plant without any real data to tell them, if you want to plant macadamias, well, you can go to TAFE and follow the guidelines, and you'll spend this much money and you'll have that much money at the end. We don't have that data yet, so people are having to take a risk and a chance. But the industry is valued today, they reckon, at around 80 million, and set to increase tenfold in the next 5 years is the prediction. I don't know where all that produce is going to come from, and there are a lot more growers and properties that are coming, will come into production in the near future. As you know, it takes a little while for trees to come into production. So the future's looking good, and rapid growth, and we've just got to make sure that we steer that growth in the right direction and the right people are getting the opportunities to enter the industry and benefit from it.
There are many incredible native ingredients, but understanding how to use them is the key to their success. I say lemon myrtle because it is the world's highest source of citral, which is lemon flavour. So it's a delicious sweet lemon, and you can use that in sweet or savoury. You can simply throw a leaf in a cup of water and have a beautiful lemon myrtle tea. It's a really good tea for older women to drink. It's got loads of calcium in it. It's calming and sedative and corrective.
See, it's a bit for anybody to drink, but yeah, specifically for middle-aged women, it's a great additive to your herbal tea range. And then, a couple of drops of essential oil in a cheesecake it gives it intense flavour. There's lots and lots of ways that any way you want lemon flavour, you can use lemon myrtle. The other ones, like say finger lime, that's a citrus fruit. So you use it the same as you do other citrus. It's paired with an oyster. They are perfect together. We make a jam out of it. We make cordial, or marmalade, and cordials. We even dry the skins for a beautiful, intense spice powder. So they're very versatile foods.
It's not just native ingredients. Playing with Fire Native Foods have a line of value-add products too.
So we make a range of jams and marmalades and a range of cordials using the rainforest fruits. We've got herbal teas, and I do a range of functional herbal tea blends. So one's a get up and go called Walkabout. There's a help you sleep one, which is called Dreaming. The Secret Women's Business, and an antidepressant type called No Worries. So there's a lot of the foods can be used as medicines as well, and have fabulous benefits to them. We make vinegars, we make dukkas, spice blends. There's quite a lot that can be done. And I also have a chef that makes some yummy fresh baked biscuits for me every week that I sell at the farmers market.
Chefs and restaurants are key to educating consumers about the flavours and array of native ingredients.
It's very important because that's usually the first place that people will get to taste and try the foods. So just last week at the markets, I had a lady come in and she'd eaten the night before at Pakala restaurant in Byron Bay, and they had Davidson plum powder sprinkled on a couple of the dishes. So she was in straight away to buy her Davidson plum powder because she was going to give that a go at home. So yeah, it's very important for us, and those relationships, and only the amazing things that they do with the native foods as well. I mean, they're teaching me how to use them. So it's fantastic. They're in a very exciting place. I think most chefs are interested to have a go. Sourcing it is still a problem for a lot of them. And I can only see it getting more and more and more used as time goes on. Not because it's on trend or anything like that, but because they are fantastic foods. And yeah, the chefs love using them. If they can get a good supply, then they're more than happy to go on with it and use them.
For Rebecca, taking native ingredients to the world is very much the agenda for the next few years.
So I mentioned the export, and that's on our agenda to try and get that happening. We're looking at we've got some interesting projects on the go in the district, looking at planting some property up that's owned by Indigenous people, and setting up some sort of incorporated association as a joint project, and that community will benefit from. We're definitely still pushing for more Indigenous involvement in the industry, and I love to encourage any newcomers, and I've almost mentored a few of them into the industry. I just love to try and help them as much as I can, because I just know that is how the industry is going to be its absolute best. And yeah, we just keep going in the way that we're going, and we've got a workshop coming up next month for property owners to encourage more planting. So yeah, it's still very much giving back to the industry and trying to keep building it.
Farmers markets are still integral with everything that she does, and as Rebecca explains, it's the connections that drives everything she does.
Every day's different. I love doing the farmers markets each week because I'm talking one-on-one with the people, and it's my social outing. I don't have much of a social life, but the markets satisfy me there. We can go out, we can be out on the farm one day, we can be spending a whole day in the kitchen, or I might be, in the office. So there's a wide range of things to do. It's never boring, and I'm always kept very, very busy, so I don't even really have time to stop and think about it a lot. You just get on and you do it. And I love being busy, and I love being, I love my hands. I don't like idle hands or anything like that. So I like to be feeling like I'm useful all the time. And I certainly can do this if it's, anything from propagating plants right through to, doing my BAS statements.
In some sense, we've come a long way with native foods, but in truth, it's still in its infancy. But with operators like Playing with Fire Native Foods, the future is looking very bright. This is The Producers, a Deep in the Weeds production. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we share the stories of producers, farmers, makers and growers, the true lifeblood of the food industry. Follow us on Instagram at Producers Podcast, or email us at producerspodcast@deepintheweeds.com.au.